What's up guys, welcome back. This is Anime Crossover. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was a Game Developer in Marvel Season 2 Part 4. Now, let's begin. The Shop of Horrors location. Raccoon City, downtown streets status. Escape from the hospital inventory. Asterisk Tony. Glock 19. Free bullets. And smartwatch, Jarvis Light. The city was a graveyard for abandoned autos and barricades. He wasn't wearing armor, instead, he wore a blood-stained scrub top. GPS satellites are offline, sir, the watch beeped softly. Hundreds of shambling figures crowded the intersection. They collided into cars, walls, and each other. We can't fight that, Hulk, Green Giant, complained. He appeared smaller in the rain, just a large man in torn pants shivering. Hulk. Scared. We don't fight, Tony instructed. The alleyway they kept to the shadows. Peter led them through a narrow alleyway lined with dumpsters. His head was pounding. Wait, said Peter, raising his hand. Tony tripped on a broken bottle. Crunch. Its face was a wreck of ripped flesh. It shrieked, a sound similar to shredding metal, and lunged. Don't shoot. Peter hissed. Hulk stepped forward. He grabbed the zombie's throat and slammed it against the brick wall. Thud. It did not stop. It clawed at the Hulk's naked arms. Tony whispered, then yelled, knife. The creature went limp and slid down the wall. Just a scratch. Check it, Tony said, placing his watch light on the wound. Red blood. You're okay. Keep moving. Objective, loot. They arrived at the shop. The front window was smashed. Inside, shelves collapsed. Clear the room, Tony said, lifting his revolver. They swept the store. Empty. The looting had been thorough. Nothing, Peter sighed and examined a display case. No ammo. No rifles. Look closer, Tony instructed. Scavenge mechanic. Check the drawers. Check under the counter. Hulk ripped the cash register from the countertop. Loot. 12-gauge shells x4. 4 shells, the Hulk snarled. Where is Boomstick? Peter gently accepted the gun. He checked the chamber. Empty. Load it up, Tony instructed. Hulk pumped his shotgun. CHCHK. The survivor A-man stumbled inside. He wore a tattered and bloody police uniform. He clutched his side. NPC. Officer Marvin. Help. The cop gasped, collapsing against the counter. They're everywhere. Peter raced towards him. Sir. Are you okay? Marvin looked up, sweat running down his face. A dark, spreading stain on the cop's ribs. Lift your shirt, Tony said, aiming his Glock. He's hurt, lift it, Tony said, his tone cold. A large, jagged bite mark on his ribs. Status. Infected. Time to turn less than 5 minutes. I'm fine, Marvin protested, his eyes wide and terrified. It's just a scratch. Don't leave me. Tony looked at Peter. We can't just leave him, Peter insisted. Maybe there's a cure at the station. Maybe. Marvin coughed. Blood splattered across the floor. Peter, step away. Don't let me. Come back. Use a bullet to end his pain, mercy. Tony looked at his magazine. 3 bullets. I can't, Tony said, lowering the rifle. He did not use the shotgun. He pulled the knife again. Sorry, little man. The horde threat level. Critical. Crash. The front window shattered inwardly, then 3 more. Then 10. Back door. Peter screamed. They dashed to the alleyway exit. Hulk. It dented but held. Again. The zombies were climbing over the counter. Marvin's body was already jerking on the ground. Hulk shouted, channeling all of his diminished strength. Crash. The door flew open, straight into a dead end. A chain-link fence obstructed the pathway. Climb, Tony instructed. He reached down. Tony, grab my hand. Kick them, Tony exclaimed. Hulk kicked a zombie in the face, breaking its jaw. He jumped and grabbed the top of the fence. The station. It has to be safe. They gazed up at the towering Gothic edifice. It was dark. The front doors were barred, from the exterior. Unless. A low, guttural growl echoed in the parking garage's shadows. It sounded like a wet and skinless dog. Enemy. Zombie dogs, Cerberus. 2 dogs sprang out of the darkness. Their skin was gone, leaving their muscles exposed. Run, Tony whispered. Inside. Now. Location. RPD, main hall status. Safe, for now. Inventory. Asterisk Peter. Web shooters, 2 cartridges. Silence. The main hall was huge, a converted art gallery with high ceilings and a large goddess statue in the center. It was only lit by emergency floodlights and moonlight shining through the glass dome. We made it, Peter, Webhead, said quietly, his voice echoing too loudly in the cavernous room. A reception desk. Why is ancient keyboard here? It's a save point. Ned, the guy in the chair, said quietly over the static-filled radio. Battery is at 11%, sir, the watch beeped. 2nd floor, Peter said, looking up to the balcony. The stairs are blocked by shutters? He pointed. We need to unlock the whole building, Tony realized as he looked at the goddess statue. We need 3 medallions, Peter realized. The eastern wing location, East Wing corridor. Environment. Claustrophobic. It was dark. Hulk racked the shotgun slide. CHCHK. They proceeded down the narrow hallway. Lockers lined the walls. Some were dented on the inside. Spider sense. Screaming, Peter grasped Hulk's arm. They directed the flashlight beam towards the ceiling. It had no skin, only bare red muscle. Enemy, liquor. Traits. Blind, super hearing. It possessed no eyes, yet its ears twitched. Click. It descended from the ceiling, claws slashing. Hulk fell backwards into the water. Boom. The buckshot struck the liquor in the shoulder, removing a chunk of muscle. Ammo. 3 shells remaining. Run, Tony shouted. It's too fast. Peter noticed. He raised his wrist. He had 2 cartridges. Whip. It struck the liquor in the face, blinding its senses and gluing its mouth shut. The operation room heavy breathing filled the space. We used a shell, Tony jotted down on a piece of paper. There is also a high-powder gunpowder canister. Gunpowder, Tony took it. If we find a reloading tool, we can make ammo, but we need a chemical bench. Look at the whiteboard, Peter pointed. Fire escape, Ned suggested. The alleyway below was filled with undead. We climb? Hulk inquired. We solve the puzzle. There's a crank handle in the schematic. If we find the crank, we can open the shutters manually. Objective. The crank, Jarvis, interface. I am a genius. I don't guess. He looked around. A nameplate. R was found on the desk of a deceased cop. Missed. Tony typed. Tony typed, missed. Wait, said Hulk, pointing to a calendar on the wall. Tony typed, 0929. Inside, there was a corroded square-shaped tool. Item. Square crank. Bingo, Tony said, grabbing it. Arms reached through. It was 7 feet tall. It wore a fedora. Enemy. Mr. X, the tyrant. It did not run. Thump. Thump, thump. Mr. X swung a cinderblock-sized fist. Crash. It destroyed a row of lockers. Run. Tony yelled. Thump. Inventory. Asterisk Tony. Glock 19, 3 rounds. Square crank. Used. Dong. He's stuck, Peter, Webhead, exclaimed, leaning against the wall. We need to keep moving, Tony Stark, Iron God, said, referring to the map on the wall. Retracted. Look at the bookshelves on the ground floor. They're on tracks. If we push them together, the tops of the shelves form a bridge. Hulk's turn. The jam track objective. Align the bookshelves. They descended the stairs to the ground floor. 3 zombies sat slumped on the reading tables. He pressed. The zombies' heads snapped upward. So much for stealth, Tony sighed. Align the red markers. It would not move. He looked underneath the shelf. A dead body became caught in the wheel mechanism. I have to clear it. Tony exclaimed. Tony was on his back, kicking the corpse wedged between the gears. A zombie lunged at him. Whip. A glob of webbing struck the zombie's face, anchoring it to the shelf. I'm out of webs. Hulk did not shoot. He did not stab. Crash. The library doors slammed open. The fedora, Mr. X ducked underneath the doorframe. He gazed at Hulk. He noticed Tony under the shelf. Thump. Thump. He began walking toward them. He's here. Crunch. The 3 shelves lined up perfectly, creating a level bridge spanning the gap. Mr. X hastened his speed. Mr. X did not climb the ladder. He punched the bookshelf that they were standing on. The whole stack swayed. Jump! Tony exclaimed. They slammed and locked the door. Location: 2nd floor lounge. Status: safe, temporary. A statue of a golden lion stood in the center, holding a shield with 3 blank slots. Okay, Tony panted. It's a symbol puzzle, Peter explained. Click. 2 to go. Location: 2nd floor hallway. West, objective. Get to the STARS office. Crash. The window at the end of the hallway shattered. Another liquor. We have to walk. Slowly. They crept down the hallway. The floors creaked. Water damage weakened the rotting wood, causing it to collapse. Whoa. Status: separated. They landed firmly on a pile of debris. Is everyone okay? Tony murmured, feeling his ribs. Hulk is padded, Hulk said, getting up and dusting off his pants. Peter looked in the mirror. On the other side, there was an interrogation room. There was a package sitting on the table in the room. Item: jewel box. Includes the STARS badge and USB key. We need that box, Tony explained. It has the USB key for the armory. That's how we get the Magnum. How do we get in? Peter inquired. Suddenly, a zombie in the next room rose. It didn't look at them. It banged its head on the glass. Crack. No, Tony realized. Smash. The glass cracked. But what about the knife? Snap. The blade was stuck in the zombie's skull. Inventory. Asterisk Peter. Empty web shooters. Tony picked up the bejeweled box off the table. It was locked using an ornate mechanism. Hulk has no key. Hulk has no knife. We don't need a key, Tony Stark, Iron God, said, pulling the red jewel from his pocket, found earlier in the West office. He placed the red jewel in the lid. Click. Whir. Inside sat a heavy, silver shield-shaped badge. Item: the STARS badge. Look closer, Tony instructed. The atmosphere is steamy. I can't see, Peter murmured. Squelch. Hulk stepped on something. A pile of organic sludge on the floor. Is that poop? Hulk inquired. No, Tony responded, shining his light. It's biomass. A G-mutant, baby form, which resembled a man turned inside out, slid out of the drain. It snatched Peter. He grabbed a locker door, wrenched it from the hinges, and slammed it down on the creature's skull. The creature screamed and retreated to the drain. Move. The St. ARS office location, 2nd floor, West Wing objective. The armory. The STARS office was disorganized but undisturbed. The walls were adorned with posters of a team: Chris, Jill, and Wesker. The metal cage at the back of the room hummed and clicked open. Inside, on a velvet pillow, was a massive stainless steel hand cannon. Weapon acquired. Lightning Hawk .50 AE, Magnum, ammo. 7 rounds. Tony picked it up. That's not a gun, Hulk said reverently. That's a cannon. He handed the Glock to Peter. The unicorn. The STARS office objective. The second medallion. While Tony admired the rifle, Peter studied the posters. He discovered a note pinned to a bulletin board. Greater than the unicorn stands guard where the stars align. Greater than. For the unicorn medallion. Peter turned the dials. Asterisk fish. Click. Item acquired. Unicorn medallion. The wall boom. Debris flew everywhere. A gray-gloved hand grasped the doorframe and crushed it like paper. Mr. X walked into the office. He obstructed the only exit. The noise from the locker room. Mr. X gazed at Tony. He noticed a Magnum. Thump. Thump. Mr. X swung his backhand. Crack. He groaned and clutched his ribcage. He grabbed Peter's throat and lifted him off the ground. Let him go. Tony aimed his Magnum. If he missed, Peter would die. Tony drew a breath. He exhaled. He squeezed the trigger. Blam. The noise was overwhelming in the little space. The recoil almost broke Tony's wrist. The .50 caliber slug struck Mr. X square in the face. It did not kill him. He staggered and dropped Peter. Mr. X dropped to one knee, shocked. Tony grabbed Peter. Hulk jumbled up. Location: main hall, first floor. Status: breathless. They did not stop until they got to the typewriter. "You shot him in the face," Peter muttered, rubbing his bruised neck. "He's invincible," Tony declared, staring at the smoking Magnum. "We can't kill him. We can only buy time. Ammo counts. Asterisk Magnum, 6 rounds. Asterisk shotgun, 3 shells. Asterisk pistol, 3 rounds. We have 2 medallions," Tony said, pulling them out. "Where he is," Hulk said coldly. "We wait," Tony replied. "We wait for him to patrol the East Wing. Then we run." Status: puzzle solving. Inventory: asterisk Hulk. Remington 870, 3 shells. Peter: empty web shooters. Rain lashed against the skylights. They entered the clock tower. It was a dirty, mechanical room with gigantic brass gears and a huge bell hanging overhead. The maiden medallion, Tony Stark, Iron God, indicated. A small, decorative box sat on a high ledge, surrounded by a steel fence. "We need to lower the gate," Peter, Webhead, stated, inspecting the mechanism. "There's one over there," said Hulk, Green Giant, pointing to a table. "Grab it," Tony instructed. "Heavy." He slotted it into the machine. Clunk. "That slot lowers the staircase. We need to go up to the bell mechanism." Hulk turned the crank. They climbed to the bell platform. "A small gear." "No," Tony replied, inspecting the machine. "Conservation of mass. Take the large gear back out." Hulk dashed down, grabbed the gear, and rushed back up. Dong. Dong. It reverberated through the flooring, their bones, and into the stormy night. "That's loud," Peter winced and covered his ears. The drop the bell's vibration shook the box loose. It fell off the ledge. Crash. The lid popped open. "Got it. 3 medallions. We can open the goddess statue." Thump. 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 Heavy footsteps echoed across the metal balcony outside. "Fast." He heard it. Ned screamed into the radio. "Choice. Fight or flight. We can't fight them all," Tony realized quickly. "We jump." It was a 3-story drop to the parking area. Crash. They threw themselves from the window. They fell through the rain. Wham. Asterisk Tony has -20% health, bruised ribs. Asterisk Hulk. -10% health, sturdy. They groaned and rolled off the trash. "I hate this game," Tony complained, clutching his side. They limped back into the station via the side door. They were back in the main hall. It was quiet again. The typewriter sat on their desk, mocking them. "Do it." Tony placed the medals. Asterisk Maiden. Grind. The goddess slid backward, revealing a dark, secret staircase that leads underground. "It has answers," Tony explained, "and hopefully, an exit." They stepped onto the elevator platform. But the nightmare of the nest was only beginning. The sewer location. Raccoon City sewers lower level. The atmosphere is toxic. The elevator opened into a damp, foul-smelling tunnel. The water here was more than just dirty, it was glowing green with sludge. Environmental hazard. Toxicity effect. Standing in water depletes health slowly. "It smells worse than the subway." "Keep moving," Tony said, leading the path with his torch. Splash. Enemy. G-mutant, adult. It growled, spitting a glob of acid that sizzled against the concrete wall beside Tony's head. "No." Tony shook his head while clutching the lightning hawk. Hulk pumped the Remington. He had 3 shells left. The G-mutant lunged out with a tentacle. Boom. He fired directly into the giant yellow eye. The creature shrieked and sank into the filth. "Run past it," Tony exclaimed. They sprinted through the toxic water, their boots squelching and their lungs burning, until they arrived at the dry platform of the cable car station. Location. Sewer monitoring room, safe room. Inventory. Asterisk Tony, Magnum, 6. Glock, 3. Peter. Empty webs and gunpowder, standard. They slammed the heavy iron door to the monitor room shut. A typewriter sat on the desktop. Thank God. Empty your pockets. We need to consolidate. Hulk put the yellow canister of high-grade gunpowder on the table. He carefully combined the powders. Make them count. No more shooting walls. CHCHK. The spy, NPC. Ada Wong. Impressive, Ada stated, her voice cool and detached. We aren't civilians, Tony said, raising his hand to his magnum. FBI. Ada lied smoothly, flashing her badge. I'm investigating the Umbrella Corporation. They have a facility below the city. The Nest. That's where the G-virus is. He scanned her using Jarvis, light. They descended hundreds of feet into the ground. When the doors opened, they were not in a dungeon. The red and white Umbrella logo was seen everywhere. It's so clean, Hulk said quietly, his muddy boots leaving tracks on the polished floor. Everyone here is dead. They reached the main shaft. Security tags. Level 1 opens the cafeteria. Level 2 opens the labs. Level 3 opens the exit. Where do we get them? Tony inquired. You're not coming. I have paperwork. Ada grinned, remaining near the computer interface. Location. Nest East area, cafeteria, greenhouse. It was overgrown. Massive vines clogged the corridors. The air was thick with pollen. I can't breathe, Peter coughed. The spores. Masks on, Tony said, pulling his hospital robe up over his nose. Hulk, hold your breath. They entered the greenhouse. It was a jungle. Humanoid figures stood among the plants. They were blooming. Their bodies were covered in green bark. Enemy. Ivy zombie. Hulk walked forward. Hulk blasted it with his shotgun. Boom. Easy, said Hulk, laughing. The vines on the torso began to twitch. They reconnected. Plants hate fire. We need to burn them. We don't have any fire, Peter exclaimed in panic. No flamethrower. No Molotovs. The bulbs, Tony said, pointing to the pulsating orange pustules on the creature's chest. Shoot the glowing spots. Critical damage. Objective. Destroy the bulbs. Ammo. Critical. You have better aim, pop the pimples. Peter grabbed the gun. He had 3 bullets. He could not use the force. Bang. Bulb 1 pops. Bang. Bang. Bulb 3 pops. 1 down. Peter exclaimed. Hulk. Tony commanded. Crack. He knocked an ivy onto the railing. Eat lead, salad. Blam. Magnum ammo. 5 rounds. Run, Tony yelled. The solution. They slammed and locked the door. A purple chip was embedded in a wristband worn by a deceased scientist. Level 2, Tony grabbed it. And the antidote. We get the cure, Tony replied, shaking his hands as he reloaded the Magnum. Wait, said Hulk, pointing to the monitor screens. It was a creature with a big, deformed eye on its shoulder, clutching a steel pipe. And he was standing directly in front of the exit train. Location. Nest West area, P4 level testing lab. Status. Chemical puzzle. Inventory. Asterisk Tony. Magnum, 5, and Glock, 3, asterisk Hulk, Remington 870, 6 shells. The air was frigid here, and liquid nitrogen pipes kept the viral samples stable. They entered the P4 laboratory. This is it, Tony Stark, Iron God, announced, tapping the console. The synthesis station. We need to make the devil's vaccine to stop the G-virus. 3 colored tubes, red, green, and blue, required to be combined to create a certain volume and color gradient. It's fluid dynamics. Move the red to the middle chamber. Cycle the green twice. Hulk, Green Giant, watched uneasily. Don't spill. Hulk hates stains. Whir click. Red liquid was poured. Green liquid is mixed. The machine hissed. The liquid become a bright, brilliant purple. Item acquired. Devil's vaccine, uncooled. It's warm, Peter said, holding the vial. The instructions say it needs to be shock frozen or it destabilizes. Down the hall. Past the cryo tubes. She aimed her revolver directly at Tony's chest. Hand it over, Ada said, her voice empty of emotion. I thought we were partners, Tony said, without raising his hands. The ride leaves in 10 minutes, Ada said, checking her watch. With or without you. But my client wants the sample. And they don't like sharing. Bang. A siren started to wail. Who started that? Ned screamed into the radio. It's automatic, Tony noticed. Containment breach. The system thinks the virus is loose. The bridge below Ada groaned. The eye of the storm location, the central shaft. Boss fight. G. Birkin, stage 3. Hulk moved between the creature and the crew. Birkin roared. He was barely human anymore, a mass of teeth and claws with 4 arms. You are ugly, Hulk said. Boom. The buckshot struck the enormous eye on Birkin's thigh. The monster did not flinch. Hulk ducked. The canister exploded, igniting the bridge on fire. He's too strong, Hulk exclaimed. Birkin charged. He swiped all 4 claws. Hulk grabbed 2 of the arms. His boots slid along the metal grating. Hulk delivered a headbutt to the monster. Blam! 3 shots. The eyes exploded in a shower of gore. Birkin screeched and fell to one knee. Run! Ada exclaimed, scrambling over the railing. The lift to the train is that way. She sprinted to the elevator. Tony yelled, let her go. And grabbed Hulk. They rushed into the low-temp lab. It was frozen solid. Hiss. The steam was vented. The purple liquid became a solid, stable blue. Got it. Tony took the cold vial. Now we just need to inject it into. Who? We don't inject it, Peter concluded. There's a service lift, Tony said, scanning the map. Down the maintenance tunnel. But it goes through the tyrant's containment area. But he wasn't wearing his trenchcoat anymore. His arm had transformed into a gigantic, burning claw. Location. Nest. Main shaft service elevator inventory. Asterisk Tony. Magnum, 2 shots. Glock. 3 rounds. Asterisk Hulk. Remington 870, 3 shells. They crowded aboard the big, open-air freight elevator. Thud. He racked his shotgun. Boom. Crack. Heartburn, Tony said, gritting his teeth. Blam. The magnum round struck the exposed heart. Blam. Time. 3:30 minutes. The tyrant has recovered. He crouched low, his claws glowing red-hot. He's charging up. Ned. The guy in the chair, exclaimed over the radio. Peter yelled, we have nothing left, debris, rocks. Batter up. Metal came into contact with bone. The pipe bent around the tyrant's head. The force of the impact halted the charge and stunned the monster for a split second. He ripped it from Hulk's grip and threw it over the edge. Event. Scripted aid. Hey. Catch. Ada Wong stood on a maintenance bridge. Item. Anti-tank rocket launcher. Ammo. 4 rockets. It's heavy, Peter grumbled, lifting it to his shoulder. The tyrant turned. FWOOSH. The rocket spiraled across the platform. Boom. The upper half of the tyrant was destroyed instantly. The lower half of the elevator fell backward, plummeting into the fiery abyss beneath. Location. Bottom of the shaft, escape train platform. The elevator reached the bottom. Tony rushed to the conductor's cabin. Clunk. The train started to move. Slowly at first, then faster. Behind them, the nest facility began to fall. Fire chased them through the tunnel. The shockwaves shook the train car. Time for detonation. 0:10. 0:02. The sunrise location. Raccoon City's outskirts. Time. Dawn. The train came to a stop in the morning light. They stumbled from the train. The screen turned black. No more zombies. Tony sighed and tossed the watch into the grass. The administrator's final score location. Genosha. Naruto leaned back in his chair. The survival horror simulation faded from the screen. They learned that power isn't about what you have, it's about what you can do without it. So, Season 4 is done. What now? Do we give them their powers back? Naruto stood up. He approached the window overlooking the server farm. They've conquered fantasy. They've conquered sci-fi. They've conquered horror. He turned around with a mischievous glint in his eye. Genre. Crime, simulation, condition, permadeath economy. Welcome back to Los Santos, Naruto whispered. Rent is due on the 1st. Tony Stark learned resource management and leadership under pressure. Chamberlain Hills, low-end apartment, the project's bank balance, $48.50. Tony Stark, Iron God, awoke to a stained mattress on the floor. Bang! 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 Open up! A muffled voice yelled from the corridor. Rent is due. I know you're in there, Jarvis, Tony muttered. Kill mode. There was no response. No smartwatch. Peter, webhead, sat by the window, sewing a red hoodie. Mr. Stark, Peter muttered. Mr. Ditkovich is outside. He says if we don't pay the $800 by noon, he's taking the TV. The job board objective. Earn $800. They stood on a street corner. The city was alive, with cars honking, pedestrians yelling, and sirens blaring. It was Grand Theft Auto 5, but without any cheat codes. Okay. Tony took command. And if you get a wanted level, the cops in this season don't respawn. You go to jail. For real time. Fine, Tony scowled. They divided up. Asterisk Tony. The chop shop, mechanic. Asterisk Peter. Pizza stack, delivery boy. Job 1. The mechanic location, Benny's Original Motorworks. Player. Tony Stark. Tony went inside the garage. I can build an arc reactor in a cave with a box of scraps. I can tune your engine. Tony gazed at the car, combustion engine. No AI. He didn't simply mend it, he rewired the fuel injection system. He bypassed the catalytic converter. The car roared to life, shooting flames from the exhaust. It's 40% more efficient, Tony said, wiping his hands. Get out of here, player. Peter Parker. The pizza time theme echoed in his head. Mission. Deliver 5 pizzas within 10 minutes. He had reflexes, not webs. Sorry. Hot cheese coming through. He reached the first home. You're late, fool, the gangster remarked. I ain't paying full price. It's 30 seconds late, Peter complained. Come on, man, my landlord is crazy. Beat it. The mobster closed the door, keeping the pizza. Peter sighed. I miss the force. Earnings. $20. Tip. Job number 3. The bouncer player. Hulk, a drunken patron, attempted to stumble past him. The drunk slurred, I know the owner, and poked Hulk in the chest. Do you know who I am? Hulk looked at the finger. You are? Small, Hulk remarked. The drunk swung the bottle. The drunk's eyes grew wide. Good job, big guy, the manager said and handed him a wad of cash. The heist setup time. 11:55 a.m. They met again at the apartment. Asterisk Tony. $50. Asterisk Peter charges $20. Asterisk total is $220. Bang. Bang. Mr. Parker. Ditkovich exclaimed. Rent. Tony looked at the television. Breaking news. An armored truck has overturned on the Elysian Island freeway. Cash is spilling onto the road. Police are en route. Tony looked at Hulk. Hulk looked at Peter. We're going to that truck. That's stealing, Peter exclaimed. It's civil forfeiture, Tony explained. Besides, if we don't, the wind will blow it away. We're saving the economy. The first score location, Elysian Island Freeway. Objective. Secure the bag. They stole an automobile, a rusted sedan. Tony drove like a maniac. They arrived at the crash site. The armored truck was on its side. Moneybags were spread across the asphalt. Grab the bags, Tony instructed. He did not grab handfuls. He grabbed the entire duffel bag. Wee woo, police sirens. A cruiser screeched to a stop. 2 officers emerged, pistols drawn. LSPD. Drop the bag. Wanted level. 2 STARS. We don't have weapons. Peter exclaimed. Hulk has bag. The Hulk flung the duffel bag into the automobile via the open window. Hulk dove into the backseat. Peter hopped onto the roof and held on through the sunroof. We're criminals. Peter shouted into the wind. They lost the cops in the storm drain tunnels. The count loot. They unzipped the bag. Lots of cash. The bills are marked. Total take, $5,000. $5 grand, Tony said, laughing. That pays rent for 6 months. And buys us gear, Hulk continued. Hulk wants suit. A figure emerged from the shadows of the factory. A man holding a cane. NPC. Lester Crest. But you just robbed a Merryweather truck. You have heat on you now. Professional heat. I'm the guy who keeps you from getting killed, Lester smiled. I have a job. A real job. The Fleece Bank. Interested? Tony examined the $5,000. Not for the Iron Man suit. Not intended for a web shooter lab. Status. Planning board. Lester Crest moved his wheelchair to the corkboard. He added a photo of a small, blue bank on the Western Highway. Small time. Low security. 1 vault, safety deposit box number 167. That's the target. What's inside? Tony Stark, Iron God, inquired, leaning against a sewing machine. Don't worry about it. Worry about the security, he noted forth 3 roles. The driller requires steady hands and hacking skills. Tony, I swing. And I don't have a license. Objective, steal the Kuruma. Stealth, Peter inquired. Get lost, fat man. Gun is broken. He punched the gangster. The man soared over the hood of the car. Wanted level. 1 star. Peter took the wheel. Bullets bounced harmlessly off the reinforced windows. This glass is amazing. Tony exclaimed. Polycarbonate laminate. I can work with this. Peter smashed through the barrier arm and sped onto the Del Perro freeway. Masks. Asterisk Hulk says, Pogo the monkey. They drove up to the bank. Okay. Tony examined his burner phone. Beep beep beep. We're in. Masks on. They burst through the doors. He wrenched the ATM from the wall and threw it through the teller's protective glass. Crash. The civilians screamed and fell to the floor. I used to use lasers. Minigame. Drilling. He jammed the drill into the lock. RRRRRRRR. Sparks flew. Easy, Tony said quietly. Feather the trigger. Don't push too hard. RRRR clunk. The lock tumblers shattered. Box number 167. He drilled it open. Inside was a small green bottle. Item. Bond box. The getaway location. Great Ocean Highway. Wanted level. 3 stars. They dashed out towards the Kuruma. Police cruisers had already swarmed the route. Wee woo. He drove backward for a second, causing the cops to collide, before spinning back around. I learned it from Mario Kart. Peter exclaimed. They sped towards the Zancudo Bridge. A police barricade of SUVs obstructed the path. Ramming speed, Hulk exclaimed from the backseat. Look up. The cargo bomb. A huge military chopper, flown by Lester's contact Eddie Toh, hovered over the bridge with a huge magnet. Get under the magnet. The magnet swung down at the last second. Clang. It grasped the Kuruma's roof. The car was lifted off the ground, and its wheels spun uselessly. The police cars below got smaller and smaller. We're flying. Peter laughed. In a car, technically, we're on hold, Tony said, holding the bond box tightly. But I'll take it. The payment place. Tequila Bar, after party, total amount. $115,000. Lester's cut plus 3 ways. Tony's cut. $35,000 Peter's part. $35,000 Hulk's cut. $35,000. They sat in a booth and counted the piles of money. It wasn't a lot, but it was money to start a business. 35 grand, Tony said with a nod. I can deal with this. He took a napkin and made a grocery list. Asterisk Micro Center. High-end PC parts, $5,000. Asterisk Hardware Store. $2,000 worth of scrap metal, a welding torch, and a soldering iron. Asterisk Real Estate. A broken-down garage in the industrial district, $25,000. We're buying a base, Tony said. An arcade, or a warehouse. Somewhere I can put together the Mark I. Mark I? Peter asked. The ironmonger suit, Tony said with a smile, made of car parts and sheer willpower. We need armor to get through the next job. Hulk inquired, what is next job? As he ordered 5 burgers, Lester came up to the table. Lester murmured, the prison break. We need to get a Russian professor out of Bolingbroke Penitentiary. It's hard, loud, and needs a pilot. Tony glanced at Peter. Are you good with planes? I crash them, Peter said. Perfect, Tony said with a smile. You got the job. La Mesa, in the industrial district, is where it is. Property. Abandoned auto shop cost $25,000. Foreclosure. Tony Stark, Iron God, kicked the door that was rusty. It shook but didn't open. Hulk, Green Giant, sighed, grabbed the bottom of the door, and ripped it apart like a lid on a can of sardines. It has character, Tony said, coughing and waving away the dust. There were old tires, engine blocks, and pigeon poop all over the warehouse. Peter, Webhead, pointed to a shadow that was moving quickly and said, it has rats. Rats are just protein that hasn't been processed, Tony said as he strolled to the middle of the room. This is it. The Stark Garage. We make the future here. What with? Peter asked. We have $80,000 left. Tony smiled and held up a welding torch he bought at the hardware shop. We have a junkyard next door, and I have a plan. The montage Iron Man by Black Sabbath, 8-bit ringtone version, *Hulk. Looking for scraps in the junkyard. He comes back with the hood of a semi-truck and the motor of a lawnmower. Peter. Putting the electronics together, he takes copper wiring from stolen street lamps and solders it to a battery array for cars. Tony. Welding. He hits a car door with a hammer and sparks fly. He puts a minigun, which he acquired from a gang attack container, on his right arm. Clang. Hiss. Whir. 3 days later, it was in the middle of the garage. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't gold and red, it had bare steel, rivets that were soldered together, and open hydraulics. It smelled like diesel and fear. Armor complete. Mark 1, Los Santos. Source of fuel. Gasoline engine. Weapon. Nailgun or flamethrower. Durability. High, speed. Low, turn it on, Tony said. Hulk pushed the starter cord on the back, like you would on a lawnmower. Put, roar. The suit sprang to life. The exhaust pipes on the shoulders let forth black smoke. It works, Tony said as he got in. The HUD was a smartphone taped together. Jarvis, light. Check the system. Sir, the inside temperature is 110 degrees. The carbon monoxide levels are very high, and you don't have any brakes. Perfect, Tony pushed the visor down. The prison break. Setting up the plane where? Grapeseed, Mackenzie Field. The goal is to steal the velum. The Vagos are the enemy. The radio made a crackling sound as Lester spoke. Okay, geniuses, it's time for phase 1 of the prison break. We need a plane to get the professor out of the country. The Vagos have a velum at the airfield up north, go get it. They drove the armored Kuruma up to the gravel airstrip. 20 gang members with yellow bandanas stood guard at the hangar. Peter, you're the pilot, Tony said. Get to the cockpit. Hulk, you're the distraction. I'm the tank. Hulk likes tank, Hulk said with a smile. Tony opened the door to the automobile. He got out of the Mark 1. Thud. 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 The ground trembled. The Vagos put down their beers. One gangster murmured, "Que putas?" Tony raised his left hand. There was a flickering pilot light. Class is over. FWOOSH. A stream of napalm mixed with dish soap for stickiness shot out of the outfit. The Vagos ran away, screaming. Panic level. High, kill it. Shouted the Vagos El Jefe. Bullets hit Tony's chest plate. Ting. 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 Tickles, Tony said with a giggle. A megaphone strapped to his helmet made his voice louder. He lifted his right arm. The nail gun for industry. Thwack. Thwack. He wasn't firing bullets, he was firing steel nails that were 6 inches long. A criminal was pinned to a wooden crate by his shoulder. The pilot, clear. Hulk cried as he flipped a Vagos car over to make a wall. Peter got to the plane. Okay, Peter said as he hopped into the cockpit. I played Flight Simulator, so I can do this. He turned on switches. Sputter. Come on, Peter pounded the dashboard. Roar. The propeller started to spin. Peter cried, I'm moving. Get in, Tony. Hulk. I can't fit in the suit. Tony shouted, and his flamethrower sputtered out. I'm staying to clear the runway. You two go. We not leave Metal Man. Hulk said. Go, I'll take the Kuruma. If I get in, we won't take off. Peter drove the jet to the runway. Vago's cars were after him, shooting SMGs. Pull up, Peter. Ned yelled. Peter pulled the yoke back. Once. 2 times. It took off. Peter flew high over the grapeseed farms. Bullets hit the tail, yet the plane stayed together. Peter yelled, I'm flying. I'm really flying. What happened after place? Sandy Shores Airfield. Lester's drop-off, mission status. Past Peter landed the plane, which was bouncy but safe. Hulk jumped out and kissed the earth. Tony showed up at the Kuruma 15 minutes later. The Mark I suit was in the back seat, folded up like a can that had been smashed. Peter asked, Are you okay? Too hot. Tony coughed, his clothes covered with soot. Suit locked up. Had to get out and run, but we got the plane. Lester rolled out of the darkness of the hangar. Not bad, Lester said with a nod. But that was the easy part. Now we need a prison bus, and cops don't sell those on Craigslist. A bus? Hulk asked. Hulk can drive a bus. Lester said, it's a secret mission. We need to stop the transport schedule. No one can see us. Tony looked at his hands, which were burned. He gazed at the Mark I suit that was smoldering. We need to make things better, Tony said. I need better cooling. And rockets. I really need rockets. Where? Route 68 in the Grand Senora Desert Mission. Take over a prison bus status. The stakeout 105 degrees Fahrenheit is the temperature. The armored Kuruma was parked behind a sign for Pisswasser. The air conditioning wasn't working. It's hot, Hulk, Green Giant, said, and his huge body was sweating through his tuxedo t-shirt. Hulk is cooking. Hulk smells like a wet dog. Focus, Tony Stark, Iron God, stated as he looked through a pair of binoculars. 5 miles out is the convoy. 1 bus, 1 escort cruiser, and a police Maverick flying above. Peter, Webhead, who was driving, said, we can't shoot the bus. If we blow up the engine, the mission is over. We have to stop it cleanly. I have a plan, Tony said as he held up a remote. I made an EMP mine out of a microwave and a car battery. It should kill the electronics without damaging the paint. Should? Peter inquired with a shaky voice. Science is about trying things out, Tony said with a smile. Get ready to be the roadblock, Hulk. The attack goal. Stop the convoy. The convoy reached the top of the slope. A black and white cruiser followed the yellow bus. The helicopter cut through the air above. Wait for it, Tony said as he looked at the signal strength on his phone. Hold on. The cruiser went past the sign. The bus went over it. Now. Tony pushed the button. A blue spark flew under the bus. The engine stopped working right away. The lights turned off. The bus came to a stop, with smoke coming from the tires. The escort cruiser slammed on the brakes when it saw that the bus had halted. Go, Hulk. Hulk came out from behind the sign. He didn't have a weapon. He took up a huge rock. Traffic jam, he tossed the rock. It hit the hood of the police car and crushed the engine block. The steam hissed. The cops inside rushed out, confused. Wanted level. 2 stars. Peter. The chopper, Tony shouted. Peter jumped out of the car. He turned his head up to see the chopper. He didn't have any webs. He had a flare gun that he bought from Ammu Nation. He took aim. Not at the pilot, but at the intake of the engine. Pop! The red flare went into the turbine. The engine made a sputtering sound. The pilot turned aside and smoked. Chopper down, Peter yelled. Take down without killing, mostly, Tony said as he ran to the bus. The takeover Route 68 is the location. Bus for prison handling. Bad Tony tore the door off the bus. The driver, who was an NPC guard, raised his hands. Get out, Tony said, waving his nail gun. The driver got out in a hurry. Peter, you drive, Tony said as he threw him the keys. Hulk, in the back. Don't let the prisoners talk. Prisoners? Peter stopped. He turned around and looked. There were people on the bus. There were a lot of prisoners in orange jumpsuits. Yeah. Freedom. One prisoner cried. "You guys are great." Peter jumped into the driver's seat and said, "We're not breaking you out. We only need the bus. Drive, kid," Tony screamed as he jumped into the passenger seat. "We have guests." The chase wanted level. 3 stars off-road terrain. Peter hit the gas hard. The bus made a groaning sound. It sped up like a tectonic plate that needed to move. "It's so slow," Peter shouted as he fought with the huge steering wheel. There were sirens going off in every direction. Sheriff SUVs were speeding through the desert, leaving clouds of dust behind. "Off-road," Tony yelled. "The GPS says there's a train tunnel close by. We lose the heat underground." Peter turned the wheel all the way to the right. The bus crashed through a wooden fence and bounced into the bushes. Bump. Bump. Crash. The people in the back were flung around like clothes. "Hey! Watch out for the bumps," an inmate yelled. "Shut up back there," Hulk yelled. "Or Hulk will sit on you." The convicts stopped talking right away. A sheriff SUV tried to pit them. It hit the bus on the side. The bus stayed still. The SUV bent and spun out. "Physics check," Tony said with a giggle. "Bus weighs 12 tons. SUV weighs 2. We win." The tunnel where Grand Senora Desert train tracks go. Get rid of the heat. They could see the entrance to the tunnel up ahead. But a train was on its way. "Choo-choo," Ned yelled into the radio. "Peter." "Train. I see it," Peter said between clenched teeth. "I can do it." He stepped on the gas. The bus shook as it drove toward the tracks. The horn on the train blew. Tony braced himself against the dashboard and said, "We're not going to make it." Peter didn't stop. He moved the bus so that it was parallel to the tracks and slipped it into the mouth of the tunnel just inches before the train blasted by. The train was like a wall that moved and stopped the police cars outside. Wanted level. Flashing, they drove deep into the black tunnel. The sirens stopped. The red and blue lights went out. Peter wiped the sweat from his forehead and said, "We did it. We lost them." The moral problem location: Sandy Shores, an old barn status. Bus safe. Lester told them to park the bus in a rundown barn. Tony looked behind him. The captives had hope in their eyes. The main prisoner asked, "So, are we free to go?" Peter looked at Tony. Peter stared at the desert. Peter muttered, "If we let them go, the cops will be all over this area for days looking for them. It ruins the heist." Hulk said, "If we keep them, we are kidnappers." Tony said, "We're already robbing banks, big guy. But kidnapping is a crime against the federal government. And it's a mess. Choice A. Let the inmates go, good karma, high heat in the area. B. Keep them locked in the bus, low heat, neutral karma." Peter let out a sigh. "Unlock the back door." Tony lifted an eyebrow. "Are you sure?" Peter said, gazing at their jumpsuits. "They're not violent criminals. Mostly drug charges. Let them go." Hulk tore the back door off. "Run," Hulk told them. "Far away. Don't look back." The convicts ran out and spread out into the dark desert. Karma up. Heat level high. More police patrols in Sandy Shores. The upgrade Stark Garage is the place. Time: 12 a.m. Money: $50,000 left. They went back to the city. The bus was hidden. The plane was hidden. Phase 3, Tony stated as he pulled up the plan. The station job. We need the Mission Row police station's transportation schedule. Peter said, "That's a stealth mission. We have to act like cops." "We need uniforms," Tony said, and he agreed, "and guns. Real guns. My nail gun won't be enough to fight news teams." "Hulk needs armor," he said, poking his chest. "Tuxedo shirt won't stop a bullet." Tony looked at the account and said, "We're broke. Repairs for the Mark I cost $20,000. Setting up the bus cost $5,000 in bribes. We need money." He pointed to a flyer that was on the wall. Event: War in the Arena, Maze Bank Arena, tonight. First place, $100,000, rules: anything goes vehicle combat. Tony smiled and said, "We have a Kuruma. Let's go to the demolition derby. I have a welder. Stark Garage, an abandoned auto shop, is where it is. The armored Kuruma, modified, is the vehicle. Arena War. Carnage Mode is the event. Iron God, also known as Tony Stark, took off his welding mask. Sparks fell over the hood of the black automobile. Tony yelled over the grinder, "It's not pretty." But it's not nice. It appeared like the Kuruma had drove through a hardware store. Asterisk front. A bumper with a rusty steel cow catcher ram welded to it. Asterisk sides. Rebar spikes are soldered to the rims in the style of Ben-Hur. Asterisk back. A temporary oil slick dispenser, a barrel of 10W30 in the trunk. Peter, Webhead, yelled, "You ruined the resale value." As he ran his palm over a dent. Lester told me not to scratch it. Tony said, "Lester isn't going to a demolition derby. We need $100,000. That's the prize for making it through the main event." Get in. Hulk, Green Giant, squeezed into the rear seat. He was carrying a bag of grenades, which were pipe explosives that Tony built out of plumbing supplies. Hulk is heavy artillery, Hulk said with a grin. The arena Maze Bank Arena is where it is. Crowd. Thirsty for blood goal. Be the last car to drive. They drove into the huge arena, which was filled up with neon lights. The crowd's roar was so loud it hurt. Fireworks went off in the air. "Welcome to the apocalypse," the announcer yelled. "Tonight, we have fresh meat." The competition sat across from them. The Sasquatch is a monster truck that has a fist on the front. The Death Bike is a motorcycle with saw blades on it. The Cerberus is a huge fuel tanker with a flamethrower on it. Peter said, "That truck has a flamethrower," as he held onto the wheel. "Our car has oil." Tony, who was in the passenger seat, said, "Oil is flammable. Go fast. Don't get hit. Round 1. Fight," the engines roared. The Death Bike raced toward them. "Peter, spin," Tony screamed. Peter pulled on the handbrake. The Kuruma turned around 180 degrees. The spikes on the rebar wheels caught the bike's tires. Shred. The bike turned over. The motorcyclist flew into the electrified wire that surrounded the pit. Zap. "One down," Peter yelled. "This is just like Twisted Metal." The Sasquatch monster truck came at full speed. It didn't worry about surges. It was 10 feet high. Hulk shouted, "He's going to crush the roof. Deploy the package, Hulk." Tony said. Hulk opened the window at the back. He used a Zippo lighter to light the fuse on a pipe bomb. Catch. He tossed the bomb. It fell into the big truck's bed. Bang. The truck didn't get destroyed in the explosion, but the back tire did. The big car sagged and leaned to one side. Peter stepped on the gas. He hit the Sasquatch in the side. The cow catcher dug into the frame. "Push him," Tony screamed. Into the pit. The engine of the Kuruma made a whine. There was smoke coming from the tires. They slowly pushed the broken monster truck toward the middle of the arena, where the floor was clear. The Sasquatch fell off the edge and into the grinder below. Eliminated. The boss, the Apocalypse Cerberus, flamethrower tanker, is the enemy. Status. Mad. There was only one enemy left. The huge vehicle that carries oil. It honked its horn, which sounded like a scary foghorn. FWOOSH. There was a stream of fire coming from the roof turret. The dashboard lit up with heat warning. Jarvis, light, temperature in the cabin is going up. Drive, Tony yelled. Peter went back. The Kuruma was quick, but the venue was small. The Cerberus pushed them into a corner. Peter freaked out and said, "We're stuck. I can't move." The flamethrower set the automobile on fire. There were bubbles in the paint. The glass with armor started to break. Tony coughed. Hulk. Now, the oil. Pull the lever, Hulk. Hulk pulled on the release handle on the back seat. The trunk opened up. There were gallons of engine oil on the concrete floor right under the Cerberus's wheels. The tires on the big truck whirled. It couldn't get a grip. "Now, the kinetic mine," Tony said, holding up a detonator. During the tumult, he put a mine on the wall of the arena behind them. Click. A wave of pure kinetic energy hit the side of the Cerberus. The 20-ton truck skidded sideways because it couldn't get any grip on the oil. Right into its own torrent of flames that was bouncing off the wall. The fuel tank at the back got hot. Peter, get to the middle. Peter hit the gas and got away from the corner just in time for the Cerberus to blow up. Kaboom! The shockwave pushed the back of the Kuruma up, flipping it over. The win-winner status, the automobile was flipped over. The cabin was full with smoke. Hulk muttered, "Are we alive?" "We won," Tony said with a giggle as he unbuckled his seatbelt and fell onto the roof. "We really won," the Jumbotron said. "Winner, Team Iron. Payout, $100,000. Bonus, $15,000. Most popular." They crawled out of the broken automobile. The crowd cheered. Tony waved, his face covered in soot. "Put money into Stark Industries," Tony cried at the camera. "We're going to the moon. Setting up the station where?" "The apartment money. $115,000. They were back in the small apartment, hurt but rich." "Okay." Tony slammed a pile of money on the table. "We have the money. Now we need to do the station job." He put a map of the Mission Row police station on the wall. "We need the prison transfer schedule. It's on a hard drive in the captain's office." Peter inquired, "How do we get in? We can't shoot up a police station." "That's an instant 5 stars. We walk in," Tony said with a smile. "Like cops." He opened a website on his new computer. "We buy uniforms, we buy a cruiser, and we steal the data right in front of them." "Who goes in?" Hulk asked. "Me and Peter," Tony said. "You're the distraction, Hulk. We're the detectives." "Hulk always distraction," Hulk said with a sigh. "No," Tony said. "No, this time, you're the bad guy." Tony said, "We're going to take you into custody. We walk you in handcuffs and put you in a cell. While they process you, I hack the computer." Hulk. "Go to jail." Hulk scowled. Hulk doesn't like small rooms. Tony assured, "It's only for 10 minutes, then we set you free." Police station on Mission Row. LSPD detectives, prisoner in disguise status. Secret, no weapon restrictions, just stealth. They drove a retired police cruiser, purchased at auction for $5,000 and painted by Tony, to the back entrance of the station. Tony Stark, Iron God, looked at himself in the rearview mirror. He had on a poor suit, a loose tie, and huge aviator glasses. Tony said, "Okay. Detective Carbon here. You're Rookie Parker. And he," Tony gestured to the back seat, "is the criminal." Hulk, Green Giant, was in the rear, with his hands behind his back. On his huge wrists, the cuffs appeared like toy bracelets. They took the orange jumpsuit from the bus and put it on him. "Hulk doesn't like jewelry," Hulk snarled as he pushed against the steel. "Please don't break them," Peter, Webhead, said as he fixed his police hat. "If you break them, we have to fight the whole precinct." "Just look sad," Tony told them. "We book you, get the schedule, and get you out in 15 minutes. The desk up front where to book." Low on the suspicion meter they came in. There were a lot of people at the station. People yelling, phones ringing, and cops drinking coffee. Tony walked up to the desk sergeant and showed him a badge constructed of a circuit board and a gum wrapper. "Detective Carbon, Vice," Tony yelled. "We found this stray in the storm drain. Assault and battery. He needs to be processed." The sergeant didn't even look up from his donut. "What's your name?" "Mr. Green," Tony made up. Hulk growled softly in his throat. "Big boy," the sergeant said under his breath. "Access granted." Tony winked at Peter. "Take him back, Rookie. I need to speak to the captain about paperwork. The infiltration location. Captain's office objective. The schedule." Peter took Hulk along the corridor toward the cells. Tony turned to the left, toward the stairs. The captain's office was on the second story. Tony walked with purpose. If you walk quickly enough, people will assume you belong there. He approached the office door. Locked. "Jarvis, light, is dead," Tony said quietly to himself. Back to basics. He took out a lockpick set made from paperclips. Minigame. Lockpicking. Asterisk rotate left. Click. Asterisk rotate right. Click. The door swings open. Tony slipped inside and shut the blinds. He sat at the computer. "Password protected. Password," Tony murmured. "It's always something stupid." He gazed at the framed portrait on his desk. A dog named Buster. He entered, Buster 123. Access denied. He looked at the calendar. A circled date indicates an anniversary. He typed 060488. Access denied. Come on, Tony snarled. He looked underneath the keyboard. A sticky note reads, Password. Password 123. Unbelievable, Tony typed in. Access granted. He plugged in his USB drive. The file prison_transfer_shed.xls has begun to download. Download. 20%. 40%. The holding cell location, cell block C. Status. Tense. Peter pushed Hulk into the cell and closed the door. Just sit tight, Peter said quietly through the bars. 5 minutes. In the adjacent cell, a huge biker with face tattoos approached the bars. Fresh meat, the biker scoffed. Nice jumpsuit, fat boy. Hulk ignored him. He sat on a bench. The bench creaked ominously. I'm talking to you, the biker exclaimed. He tossed a cup of water at the Hulk. The water spilled into Hulk's face. Hulk carefully wiped it off. His eyes became a brighter shade of green. Peter, Hulk whispered. Hulk wants to smash. No, Peter hissed. Think happy thoughts. Kittens. Sunsets. Kittens are small, Hulk hissed. Biker is breakable. The biker laughed. You gonna cry? Hulk stood up. He stepped to the bars that separated the cells. He grasped the steel bars. Screech. He bent them, only a little. Enough to make the metal groan in anguish. The biker stopped laughing. He backed away. Never mind. The twist location. Captain's office download, 90%. Tony watched as the bar filled. Suddenly, the doorknob turned. Tony froze. He dove underneath the desk. The door opened. Captain Mairo walked in. He was on the phone. Yeah, I know about the robot man in the desert, the captain remarked, pacing around the room. The Fib is sending a team. They think it's terrorism. He sat at the desk, right above Tony. Tony held his breath. He could see the captain's immaculate shoes. The USB drive was still plugged in. A little red light flashed on the tower. Blink, blink. What the? The captain paused. Why is my drive active? He reached for the mouse. Crash. The sound of cracking glass resonated down the hallway. Officer down in booking. Someone exclaimed. The prisoner broke the door. The captain leapt up, drew his weapon, and dashed out of the office. Hulk. Tony sighed with relief, snatching the USB. You beautiful disaster. Download complete. The exit strategy location. Main lobby status, chaos. Tony ran down the stairs. The lobby was a disaster. Hulk had shattered the cell door. Not because he was furious, but because he relied on it too heavily. He was now standing in the middle of the bullpen, holding the door as a barrier. Put the door down. A dozen cops cried, pointing their weapons. It fell off. Hulk exclaimed back. Rookie. Tony exclaimed, coming into the room. Control your prisoner. He rushed up to Hulk and tackled him. Hulk feigned to stumble. Sorry, Captain. Tony exclaimed at the perplexed officers. He's off his meds. We're transferring him to maximum security immediately. Get him out of here, the sergeant exclaimed, before he breaks the walls. Peter grasped Hulk's other arm. They dragged him to the exit. Move it, dirtbag. Tony exclaimed. For emphasis, they rushed out the back door, shoved Hulk into the cruiser, and drove out just as the alarm started to ring for real. Wanted level 3 STARS, the getaway location, Olympic Freeway. Objective. Lose the cops. Go, go, Tony exclaimed. Peter drove the cruiser against traffic. Did you get it? Peter inquired, evading a bus. Got it, Tony replied, holding out the drive. The professor is being moved tomorrow at dawn. Transport bus 404. Route 68. We have the bus, Hulk announced from the back, finally breaking the restraints. We have the schedule. Now we need the break. Lester says the professor is in solitary. Tony looked over the file. We have to intercept the bus before it gets to the prison. We swap the prisoners. We drive the bus into the prison. We walk out with the professor. That sounds complicated, Peter commented. It's a heist, kid, Tony smiled. It's supposed to be complicated. Location: Grand Senora Desert, Route 68, time, 8 a.m. Mission: The Trojan Horse. Status: The Swap. The genuine prison bus 404 rumbled along the dirt route. The driver, a bored correctional officer, drank his coffee. Suddenly, a black automobile, the Kuruma, slid across the road, obstructing both lanes. What the? The motorist slapped the brakes. Tony Stark, Iron God, appeared sporting a full LSPD outfit and aviators. He raised a hand. Roadblock, Tony yelled. We have a chemical spill ahead. Turn around. I have a schedule, the driver exclaimed. And I have a badge, Tony exclaimed, flashing his false ID. Do you want to explain to the warden why your bus melted? During their argument, Peter, Webhead, who was also in uniform, snuck behind the bus. He put a GPS jammer across the bumper. Clear, Peter said into his comm. Hulk, Green Giant, emerged from behind a cactus. This time, he wore a guard uniform. It was XXXL and shredded along the seams. Hulk is. Traffic control, he growled. He grabbed the back of the bus. Only the rear wheels. Hey, the driver screamed. Hulk walked the bus off the road and carefully placed it in a ditch. The wheels whirled uselessly in the air. Nap time, Hulk announced, banging on the window. The driver saw the huge fist and wisely unlocked the door. Vehicle swapped. Stealth. Maintained. The entry location: Bolingbroke Penitentiary, main gate disguise. Prison guard objective: infiltrate. They drove the stolen bus up to the prison's enormous steel gates. Snipers watched from the towers. Be cool, Tony murmured while driving the bus. Don't look at the towers. Just act like you hate your job. I do hate this job, Peter murmured, fixing his cap. They pulled up to the checkpoint. A guard carrying a clipboard walked out. Bus 404, the guard consulted the schedule. You're early. Traffic was light, Tony said deadpan, and the prisoners were quiet. It's a miracle. The guard looked back. It was vacant. Transferring. Nobody. Pickup, Tony clarified. Professor Sokolov. Maximum security. Warden's orders. He gave out the fake transfer documents, courtesy of the police station heist. The guard scanned the barcode. Beep. All right, the gate buzzed open. Park in Sector C. Don't talk to the inmates. Access granted. The yard location: Sector C, recreation yard. Tension high. They walked into the yard. Hundreds of convicts were doing weights and playing basketball. The tension was palpable. Hulk, Tony whispered. Stay by the bus. Keep the engine running. Peter and I will get the package. Hulk, stay, Hulk said, leaning against the bus. He crossed his arms. A 6 feet 8 inches guard with muscles ripping through his shirt was an effective deterrent. Tony and Peter proceeded towards the cell block. Act natural, Peter said quietly. A prisoner ran into Peter. Watch it, screw. Peter quickly apologized. Oh, sorry, I didn't see. Do not apologize. Tony hissed. You are a guard. Be mean. Peter deepened his voice. Move along, citizen. I mean. Dirtbag. They reached the isolation wing. The package location: solitary confinement. The target is Professor Sokolov. They found Professor Sokolov, the Roskovsky archetype, a thin, balding man with big glasses sitting on his bunk, muttering calculations. Professor, Tony said, unlocking the cell. Your ride is here. Sokolov looked up. Who are you? I'm the guy breaking you out, Tony smirked. Come on. No, Sokolov shook his head. I can't leave without my data. It's on the server at the administration building. We don't have time for a side quest, Tony argued. We have a plane waiting. Then I stay, Sokolov said, sitting back down. My life's work is based on that drive. Unbelievable, Tony grumbled. Fine. Where is it? The alarm location. Administration building status. Compromised. They carried Sokolov to the administration building, where Tony hacked the server while Peter kept an eye on things. Click clack. Got it, Tony said, pulling the drive. Now let's. Wee woo wee woo. The siren blared and red lights flashed. Did you trip it? Peter inquired. No, Tony yelled. Someone witnessed the bus driver in the ditch. The GPS jammer has failed. Wanted level 4 STARS, news teams are inbound, Plan B. Tony shouted into the radio. Hulk, bring the bus around. The riot location. The yard. Event. Chaos. The yard's gates swung wide, armored noose, SWAT trucks drove in, and guards on the towers started fire. The Hulk is driving. The yellow bus broke through the chain link fence and drifted across the basketball court. Get inside, Hulk shouted, kicking open the door. Tony and Peter shoved the professor onto the bus, and bullets ricocheted off the chassis. Go. 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 Hulk stomped it, aiming for the wall rather than the gate. Hulk. Peter inquired. That's a wall. Hulk make door. The bus slammed the concrete wall at 60 miles per hour. Crash. The front of the bus crumpled, but the wall fell away, spewing dust and bricks onto the dusty highway. The airfield location. Sandy Shores Airfield objective. The handoff, they sped down the gravel road, pursued by 3 police cruisers and a helicopter. The airplane. Peter pointed. It's already taxiing. The Velum, piloted by the Vagos pilot they hired, or perhaps Peter jumped in again, revved its engines. Jump. Tony ordered. They jumped from the rolling bus as it rolled into a ditch, sprinting for the plane. My data. Sokolov yelled, holding his drive. Get on that plane. Tony shoved him inside. Peter and Tony scrambled into the cabin, while Hulk stood on the runway. Hulk. Tony yelled. Get in. Plane is. With the pilot, Sokolov, Tony, Peter, and Lester, who was already inside eating a sandwich. There was no room for the Hulk in the Velum, which had only 5 seats. I will meet you in the city, the Hulk yelled. He turned to face the approaching police cruisers. Hulk. Smash. He picked up a chunk of the broken wall he had brought with him and flung it at the lead police car, which flipped. Hulk dashed into the desert, disappearing amid the scrubland. The plane took off. The skydive location, 10,000 feet. Status. Success. The pilot banked the plane over the ocean, and the wanted level flashed before disappearing. Stars are cleared. We did it, Sokolov laughed, clutching his hard drive. You crazy Americans. You did it. This is your stop, Tony said, opening the side door. What? Sokolov stared down at the ocean. Parachute, Tony said, handing him a kit. The client is waiting on a yacht down there. Jump. Sokolov was worried. I've never jumped. It's easy. Tony pushed him. Physics takes care of the rest. Whoosh. Sokolov fell, and his chute opened a moment later. Mission passed. Payout. $500,000. The cut location. The apartment. Funds. $500,000, split. They sat in the living room, which was still a dump but now had a heap of cash on the table. 500 grand, Tony smiled. That's serious money. That is, purchase a mansion, money. Or, Peter ventured, we buy the arcade Lester mentioned. The one with a secret basement, the Diamond Casino heist? Tony raised an eyebrow. That's big league, that is millions. Hulk wants. Hulk entered through the door, covered in cactus needles, and remarked, hot tub. You did it. Peter cheered. Hulk ran. The huge man shrugged, and he is fast. Tony examined the map of Los Santos. We have the capital, Tony decided. We are finished with small criminality. We are going corporate. We're purchasing Maze Bank Tower. Location. Internet cafe. Website. Dynasty 8 executive. Account balance is $500,000, pooled. Tony Stark, Iron God, sat at the sticky computer terminal, browsing real estate listings. We need a headquarters, Tony stated, not a garage. A tower. I need a view. He clicked on Maze Bank West. Asterisk price. $1 million. Asterisk discount. 50% off, foreclosure special. Asterisk total amount. $500,000. It's every dime we have, Peter, Webhead, said uneasily. We won't have money for ammunition. Or food. We don't need food, Tony said as he pressed by. We have free snacks in the assistant's lobby. Property acquired. Maze Bank West office, organization name. Stark Industries. The Office Del Perro, Mazebank West, 20th floor, status. CEO. They took the elevator up to a marble-floored lobby, where a receptionist, the assistant, sat behind a desk. Welcome back, boss, she smiled robotically. I've stocked the fridge with meteorite bars and pisswasser. Finally, Tony adjusted his shoddy suit, which looked expensive on him. Civilization. He sat in the executive chair behind the enormous glass desk and accessed the SecureServe console. Okay, team, Tony turned the laptop around. Here's the business model. We steal expensive autos. We tweak them. We sell them to warlords for a profit. It's called import, export. He hired his crew using the menu. Asterisk associate. Peter Parker, driver, asterisk bodyguard. Hulk, muscle. The Hulk has. Job? Hulk, Green Giant, inquired, gazing at his new outfit. A black suit with sunglasses that barely held onto his face. You're the VP of Aggressive Negotiations, Tony told me. The source mission. Source vehicle. Target. Pegassi Tesseract, top range. Vinewood Hills, the Quartz Center. Difficulty. Stealth required. The target is an electric hypercar, Tony informed them. It's on display at an art gala. We go in quietly, we drive loudly. They took the Buzzard attack chopper, a CEO perk Tony rented for $25,000, which placed them in debt. They landed on the top of the museum. Stealth mode, Peter murmured. The car, a futuristic, luminous electric beast, rested on a rotating plinth in the courtyard, which was surrounded by soldiers dressed in tuxedos. I take out the guards, Peter said quietly. Hulk, fetch the key from the valet stand. Tony, you hacked the immobilizer. Peter dropped silently, whip, imaginary web, and strangled out a guard from behind. Hulk stepped up to the valet stand. Key. Please. The valet trembled before handing it over. Tony stepped into the driver's seat and plugged his laptop. Hacking. 50%. Suddenly, a guard noticed Hulk. Hey. Who are you? Hulk examined his costume. I am. Businessman. Open fire. Alarm triggered. The getaway vehicle. Pegassi Tesseract. Value. $2,500,000. Repair cost. $0. Now, go. 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 Tony screamed. The immobilizer clicked off, the electric motor whined, Tony floored it, and the car rocketed off the pedestal, shattering through the museum's glass doors. Peter. Hulk. Get inside. Peter dove into the passenger seat and Hulk squeezed into. Well, there wasn't a back seat, so Hulk grabbed the roof. Hold on. They accelerated along the winding roads of Vinewood Hills. Enemy. Blue Sultan RSX-2. Rival gangsters emerged on radar, and blue automobiles glided around the corner, firing micro SMGs. Ping. A bullet struck the back bumper. Repair cost. $245. Stop being shot. Every bullet comes out of your paycheck. Tony yelled. They're shooting us, Peter cried, returning fire with his micro SMG. Hulk hopped onto the bonnet of the automobile, blocking Tony's eyesight. Hulk, move. I cannot see. Hulk smashes a car. Hulk jumped, leaping from the hood of the rushing Tesseract to the roof of the pursuing Sultan. Crunch. The Sultan's roof fell, and the automobile spun out and detonated. Hulk rolled across the road, straightened up, and dusted off his suit. VP of Negotiations, Hulk smiled. The bomb status, speed trap. Tony veered onto the freeway. The repair bill was only $500, which was reasonable. Then his phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, Stark, a warped voice replied. I see you stole my automobile. Have you checked the chassis? Beep beep beep. A red light appeared on the dashboard. Bomb armed. Condition. Detonate if speed falls below 50 miles per hour. This is the speed movie. Peter yelled. Don't slow down, Tony. I am in Los Santos traffic. Tony panicked. How am I meant to keep above 50? A traffic bottleneck had formed ahead of the bridge. Ned. Route. Take the shoulders. No, take the opposite lane. Ned yelled. Drive into oncoming traffic. Tony wrenched the wheel, and the Tesseract skidded into the northbound lane, as cars honked and swerved. Hulk. Tony yelled into the comms, "We need a path." Hulk was rushing down the freeway. He was fast enough to keep up with the traffic, when he noticed the gridlock. He seized a barrier truck parked on the side and hauled it into the center of the road, forming a ramp. "Tony, jump. Are you crazy? Physics?" Tony hit the ramp at 120 miles per hour. The hypercar soared over the bottleneck. The bomb beeped wildly as the airspeed plummeted. But the wheels still spinning. They landed hard. Crunch. Repair cost $3,400. "We are alive," Peter cheered. "We have 2 minutes to reach and disable the warehouse." Tony drove like a demon to the industrial district. The warehouse location: La Puerta Vehicle Warehouse. Status: secured. They skidded into the warehouse, and the mechanic, NPC, hurried over to deactivate the bomb just as the timer reached 0:01. Tony leaned over his steering wheel. "Value secured," Tony said. "Market value: $2.5 million. Commission is $80,000. "Only $80,000? Hulk inquired, walking in. He had ran the remainder of the way. "That's the grind, big guy," Tony exclaimed, admiring the car. "We take 10 more of these and fill the warehouse, then we sell everything at once. That's the big payday." Suddenly, the warehouse TV turned on, and the news started playing. There have been reports of a gigantic green figure wearing a suit trashing private property in Vinewood. The Fib has released a statement. A man in a sharp suit emerged on screen. Agent Steve Haynes, or a generic corrupt Fed. "We know who you are, and we have a job for you, a job off the books." Tony turned at Peter and said, "We just got headhunted." Location: Galileo Observatory. Time: sunset. Status: blackmailed. When they arrived at the armored Kuruma Observatory, there was already a black government limousine with 2 men in cheap suits leaning against it. Agents Steve Haynes, the corrupt Fed, and Dave Norton, the tired Fed. "Nice automobile," Haynes snarled, kicking the Kuruma's tire. "I guess it was paid for with stolen money from the Fleesa job." "Or was it a prison break?" Tony Stark, Iron God, strolled out, straightening his tie. "I'm not sure what you're talking about. I run a legitimate waste management consultancy." "Cut the nonsense, Stark," Haynes flung a dossier onto the hood. "We know about the exoskeleton. We know about the green monster. And we know you are operating without a permit. What do you want?" Peter, Webhead, inquired, stepping out nervously. "We have a problem," Dave moaned, "with Merryweather Security. Humane Labs is creating a nerve agent. We can't hit them legally. We need deniable assets. Do you want us to raid a PMC stronghold?" Hulk, Green Giant, scoffed. "Does it pay?" "It pays in your freedom," Haynes smiled. "Do this task, and we'll clear your records. Refuse, and you'll spend the remainder of the season in Bolingbroke." Tony examined the file. Project: Humane Raid. "Fine," Tony replied, "but we do it my way. And we keep the technology." Setup number 1. The Rolling Fortresses mission: steal the insurgents. Location: Davis Quartz Quarry. Enemy: Merryweather Security. "To hit the labs, we need armor," Tony told the team back at the apartment. "Merryweather is testing 2 insurgent pickups at the quarry. They are mine-resistant, bulletproof, and equipped with 50 caliber turrets." "Hulk likes big trucks," Hulk said, nodding in approval. They drove to the quarry, which was a vast hole packed with armed mercenaries and sniper towers. "High ground," Tony said. "Peter, take the sniper rifle. Clear the drivers. Hulk and I will go down to secure the trucks." Peter, Webhead, laid prone on the ridge, looking through the scope of his heavy sniper. Bang! A Merc from the tower dropped. Bang! Another Merc by the truck was dropped. "All clear," Peter radioed. "Move in." Tony and Hulk took the Kuruma down the winding gravel road. Ambush! Ned screamed into the communications channel. 2 Merryweather jeeps emerged from a side tunnel, blocking the way, and machine gun fire peppered the Kuruma. Hulk! Clear the road. Hulk kicked the door open, got out of the speeding automobile, and dashed toward the lead jeep. Beep, beep. He shoulder-checked the jeep, and the force flipped it on its side. The turret-run vehicle. Insurgent pickup custom. The goal is to escape the quarry. They got to the bottom and found two enormous, boxy armored trucks. "I am driving," Peter yelled as he tumbled down the dirt hill. "I am on the gun." Tony got into the turret of the lead truck. Hulk took the second vehicle alone. "Hulk doesn't need a gun. Hulk is the gun," they yelled as they emerged from the quarry. Whoop whoop whoop. Two Merryweather buzzards climbed the ridge with missiles locked on. Incoming. Peter turned the truck. A rocket impacted the ground immediately close to them. The insurgent shook but kept going. "Take a bite," Tony turned the 50 calories turret. Daka daka daka. The hefty shots broke the glass on the aircraft. The pilot fell. The helicopter lost control and crashed into the quarry wall, creating a huge flame. "One down." Tony cheered. "This rifle feels great. The kinetic response is shockingly real." 3 mercenaries were trying to ram Hulk's truck. "Annoying flies," Hulk said. He turned his insurgent into the cars that were attacking and smashed them against the rock wall. The armored vehicle's weight turned the automobiles into scrap metal. Set up to the EMP place. The USS Lexington aircraft carrier. Mission. Get the Hydra jet status. The danger zone. They hid the trucks. But the raid wasn't ready. "The labs have an electromagnetic alarm system," Lester said on the phone. "They gas the room if you cross the line. To turn off the power, you need an EMP." "Where do we get an EMP?" Tony inquired. Lester responded, "There's one on a Hydra VTOL jet." "Stealing a jet," Peter said, and his eyes got big. "From the Navy?" "Technically, it's international waters," Tony said with a shrug. "It's stealing. It's okay." The boat ride. At night, they took a dinghy to the carrier. It seemed like a steel mountain coming out of the fog. "Stealth entry," Tony said. "Put on the silencers." They climbed the chain that held the anchor. It was Top Gun Nirvana on the deck. There are jets all over the place. "Peter, turn off the control tower," Tony said as he pointed. "Hulk, watch over the hangar bay. I'm going to get the Hydra." Peter moved like a spider. He crawled along the catwalks and shot cameras with his silenced gun. "Tower blind," Peter said in a low voice. Tony ran to the Hydra. It was smooth, gray, and loaded with weapons. He got into the cockpit. "Jarvis, light, isn't here," Tony said under his breath. "Just normal avionics. I can fly this." He turned on the ignition. The turbine started to whine. Wheeee. The noise woke up everyone on the ship. "Intruder on the deck." Hulk yelled. "Go loud." Hulk grabbed a missile rack from a jet that was parked and flung it toward the guards who were coming to help. Bang. Dogfight vehicle. Hydra VTOL jet goal. Keep the EMP safe. Tony raised the jet straight up off the deck. "Get to the extraction," Tony shouted. "I'll cover you from the air." "We have our own rides," Peter screamed. Peter and Hulk rushed onto neighboring P-996 laser jets. "I don't know how to fly this," Hulk roared and pushed buttons with his huge fingers. "Throttle forward," Tony told them. "Pull up." The 3 jets screamed as they flew into the sky. Enemy squadron inbound. Enemy jets rushed to stop them. It was a 3v3 dogfight over the Pacific Ocean. Tony monitored the HUD as he locked on. Fox 2. He shot a missile that could find heat. It followed the enemy lead and blew off his wing. Hulk shouted, "I'm spinning." His jet was rolling over and over again without stopping. "Hulk hates tiny stick," Peter said. "Use the cannon. Hold the trigger." Hulk squeezed the stick. The cannonballs blew up an enemy jet that flew in front of him by mistake. "Hulk meant to do that," Hulk said, steadying himself. They flew back to the airfield in formation, where they landed the stolen Hydra in the hangar. The calm before location. Stark garage status. All set. They had the armored trucks. They had the EMP. Tony stood in front of the Hydra and patted its nose cone. "We take the EMP device out of this," he said. "We keep it hidden in the labs. We blow it up. Then we go through." "And what about the nerve gas?" Peter said. "What do you wear?" Tony responded, "Rebreathers. We go into the dark, fight a group of mercenaries, and take the data." "And then?" Hulk said. "Then we tell the fib to leave," Tony said with a smile. "We begin the real project." "What real project?" Tony pointed to a poster on the wall that he had recently put up. A drawing of a huge underground building. Project: the Doomsday Heist. Goal: saving the world. Tony loaded his assault rifle and said, "But first, let's steal from some scientists." Location: high up over Humane Labs. Valkyrie, stealth helicopter, is the vehicle. Time: 2 a.m. Dark. Weather: lots of rain. It was a huge machine, with 2 miniguns on the sides and a powerful cannon on the front that could blow things up. Peter, Webhead, and Tony Stark, Iron God, sat in the rear and looked over their gear. They donned black military diving suits and quad-lens night vision goggles. "Okay," Tony said. "The EMP will go off in 30 seconds. We fall when the lights go out. The ground team, myself and the youngster, keeps the labs safe. The air team, Hulk and the pilot, keeps the sky clear." Hulk, Green Giant, was in the co-pilot seat and held the controls of the nose cannon. "Hulk likes big gun," the giant said with a smile. "Gun goes boom." "Don't shoot the lab," Peter cried over the sound of the rotors. "We're going in." The drop event. EMP detonation. FZZZT. A huge wave of blue energy spread out from the parking lot below, where they were hiding the insurgent. The lights in the huge building went out and flickered. The fences around the property caught fire. The searchlights stopped working. "Go. Go. Go." Tony and Peter rappelled down from the helicopter. They slipped down the ropes and landed quietly in the parking lot. The world grew gray and blurry. 2 guards at the gate, Tony murmured as he raised his suppressed assault rifle. 3, 2, 1, on my mark. PFF'd. PFF'd. Both guards fell to the ground right away. "Nice shot," Peter said quietly. "Not deadly. I aimed for the head," Tony said quietly. "Time for bed." They went to the keypad. Tony broke inside it. The doors to the blast opened with a hiss. The lab's location is inside Humane Labs, and its status is stealth. The emergency red lights lit up the hallways like blood. People were racing around in a panic. "Don't hurt the scientists," Peter said. They moved in a smart way, from one corner to the next. Enemy. Merryweather Security. A group of mercenaries walked down the hall, their spotlights lighting up the gloom. Tony hurled a canister and said, "Flashbang out, bang." The mercs couldn't see. Peter used his new synthetic web grenades to web them to the walls. With the butt of his gun, Tony knocked them out. They got at the keycard door. "Simultaneous swipe," Tony said, pointing to the 2 terminals. 3. 1, 2, 3. Beep. The massive steel door opened. The information. The goal is to steal the files. In the main server room, fans were whirring to keep the air cool. Tony plugged his portable disk into the mainframe. "Downloading project, nerve gas," he said. "Hey, what's this?" He saw a folder called Project Doomsday that was hidden. Tony smirked and said, "Downloading that too. Policy of insurance." Peter spotted the nerve agent while the bar was becoming busy. "Canisters of shimmering green gas. It looks like Mountain Dew," Peter said. "Don't drink the soda. That isn't allowed. Put it away," Tony told them. "We're going." The getaway where? Cooling tunnel status. Compromised. Wee woo. The backup generators turned on. The lights came back on with a bang. "Alert! Breach in Sector 4, Peter cried. "We're burned." To the cooling tunnels. Tony pointed to a hole on the floor. They kicked the grating open and leapt into the water below. Rebreathers. Equip. They swam through the dark, flooded pipes. The fans turned slowly in the water. They had to plan their swims so they wouldn't get cut. There was turmoil on the surface above them. Hulk, Gunner, is the player. The backup from Merryweather came. 4 buzzard attacks. There were a lot of helicopters in the skies. "They're shooting at friends," Hulk yelled. He turned the Valkyrie's cannon on its nose. THOOM THOOM THOOM. The powerful shots ripped through the first buzzard. It broke apart in the air. Hulk chuckled and said, "Haha. Little helicopters." A second buzzard shot a missile. The pilot, Eddie Toe, turned hard. The missile hit the tail. "Steady," Hulk screamed. Hulk can't aim if the world is spinning. He was in charge of the target. THOOM. The second helicopter spun down and crashed into the parking lot. Ground team is out, Eddie screamed. They're on the beach. The beach is on the Alamo Sea coast. Goal. Extraction. Tony and Peter came out of the drainage pipe and onto the sandy beach. They took off their rebreathers and gasped for oxygen. Peter coughed and stated that water tasted like chemicals. Tony said it was coolant as he checked the drive. We have the information. The Valkyrie came down, throwing up sand and water. Get in, Hulk yelled from the side entrance, where he was now using a minigun. They rushed on board. Go. Get us out of here. The chopper took off right as a Merryweather caravan drove onto the beach. Hulk fired a wall of lead from the minigun, turning the jeeps like Swiss cheese as they sped toward the rising sun. The payout. The meeting point. Karen's contact. Prize. $675,000. They touched down in a quiet pasture. There was a woman in a suit, Karen, waiting. Tony gave the nerve poison to them. Good job, Karen exclaimed as she gave them a briefcase. The Fib appreciates your service. Your records are clear. She turned and left. Wait, Peter said. What about the information? The files we stole? Burned, Karen said. Of course. Tony saw her drive away. He tapped his chest pocket, where the disc was buried. She's lying, Tony said quietly. Jarvis, Light, encrypted the Doomsday file while we were swimming. It's an AI. Clifford is a bad AI. Another AI? Hulk moaned. Like Ultron? Worse, Tony remarked in a grim voice. This one can get to the codes for launching nuclear weapons. Peter grumbled, so much for retirement, Star-kind. Office, Maze Bank West, is where it is. Time, 9 a.m. Status. Debriefing. Tony Stark, Iron God, walked around his glass office. It's a network of neurons. It's getting smarter. It's hungry. Hungry? Peter, Webhead, asked as he spun around in the fancy office chair. It's looking for launch codes, Tony said, stopping to think. Nuclear silos. Grids of power. The market for stocks. This, Clifford, isn't a computer application, it's a weapon. The elevator made a noise. Lester Crest came in, but he wasn't the only one. A man with a frenzied energy, slicked back hair, and a big ego walked next to him. NPC. Avon Hertz, tech billionaire, neural network genius. Well, Avon said with a sneer as he looked at Tony's poor suit. You are the mechanic who broke into my firewall. Code that isn't neat. Works well, but is messy. Tony said, I'm the mechanic who just saved the city from nerve gas. Who are you? IT support, Avon laughed. I'm the future, and I need your help. My AI, Clifford, has found a threat from outside. Agents from Russia. They're trying to ruin the way we live. Russians? Hulk, Green Giant, asked. Hulk thought the Cold War was over. It went digital, Avon said as he tapped his smartwatch. I have a place. A rough scar in the ground in Paleto Bay. It has a cannon that goes around the world. There's a place for planning. I need a group to run it. Do you want us to be your personal army? Tony inquired. What do you want? Avon said, I want you to save the world. Plus, I'll give you millions. Tony checked the bank account. They had $675,000. Not enough for retirement. Okay, Tony said as he shook his hand. But I'm driving. The facility is in Paleto Bay, which is in the middle of nothing. Property. IAA satellite station status. But they traveled for hours along the coast to get to Paleto Bay. The building was an underground bunker that was disguised under a fake water tank. They went down the huge concrete ramp. It was a tech wonderland inside. Teams in charge of security. Farm servers. And in the middle, there was a huge, spinning holographic globe. Welcome to the Batcave, Peter said in a low voice, his eyes wide. It's a war room, Tony clarified, heading to the center table. Let's see the board. The Doomsday Heist. Act 1. Target. Data breaches, Setup Number 1. Dead Courier. Setup 2. Signal interception. We need to track the data leaks, Avon stated. But the signals are moving. We need vehicles that can keep up. He pushed a button. The floor opened. 4 silver sports vehicles rose from the hydraulic lift. They resembled classic 1980s DeLoreans. Are those? Peter gulped. Imponte Deluxos, said Avon, smirking. And yes. They fly. The setup. Signal interception vehicle. Imponte Deluxo. Mission. Hack the target vehicles. Ability. Hover, flight. I call shotgun. Peter exclaimed, hopping into Tony's automobile. Hulk squeezed into the second car alone. Hulk feels cramped. Car is tin can. Don't dent it, Tony instructed. These things cost $4 million a pop. They drove from the bunker. Press X to activate hover mode, Avon ordered over the radio. Tony pushed the button. The wheels collapsed underneath the chassis. The car floated 3 feet above the ground. Repulsor tech, Tony explained. Crude. But effective. Pull back on the stick to fly, Avon explained. Tony pulled back. The car tipped up and flew into the sky. We're flying, Peter exclaimed, sliding down the window, an unwise decision at 5,000 feet. Roads. Where we're going, we don't need roads, focus, McFly, Tony instructed. We have 4 targets. Digital vans. We need to fly close, match their speed, and hack their data. The hack target 1. Benson truck, moving on the freeway, altitude, 50 feet. They flew down across the highway. Get closer, Peter said, opening the hacking software on his phone. I need to be within 10 meters. Tony hovered the Deluxo directly above the moving truck. This was a delicate dance. If he went too low, they'd crash. The signal failed because it was set too high, hacking 20%. They've spotted us, Peter cautioned. The rear doors of the truck flew open. 2 guys with machine guns began fire. Ping. Ping. They're shooting my loner. Tony exclaimed. Hulk. Intercept. Hulk's Deluxo descended from the heavens like a stone. He did not shoot. He just landed on top of the truck. Crunch. The vehicle swerved due to the weight of the flying car. The gunmen lost their equilibrium. Hulk is parking. Hacking. 100%. The surprise target number 4. The boat, off the coast, they finished the trucks. The final signal came from a yacht off the coast of Vespucci Beach. It's on the water, Tony explained. Switch to hover mode. We skimmed the waves. They slid down, inches above the ocean spray. This is incredible, Peter exclaimed, looking at the sunset shining on the ocean. Mr. Stark, can we keep these? If we survive, Tony pledged. They approached the yacht. Suddenly, the radar went red. Lock-on detected. Missiles. Tony banked hard right. A rocket emitted smoke just beyond their window. The yacht has defenses. I have missiles, too, Tony said, flipping the safety switch on the stick. Locking on. Beep 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 whoosh. Tony launched a salvo of homing missiles. They hit the yacht's bridge. Boom. Data has been secured. Jarvis, light, confirmed. Signal traced to the server farm at the Noose headquarters. The betrayal, new start, location. The facility, status, planning. They landed the Deluxos back at the bunker. Good work, Avon clapped slowly. The data points to a massive leak at the government server farm. The Russians are stealing our secrets. So, we break into the government? Hulk inquired. We sneak in, Tony explained. Stealth. Suppressors. We act like professionals. I have a bad feeling about this guy, Peter murmured to Tony, looking at Avon. He talks about saving humanity, but his eyes, they look like he's playing a video game. Keep your friends close, Tony said back, and your billionaires closer. We use him for the cash. Then we take the tech. Location. The facility war room mission. Data breaches, finale, status, green light. Avon Hertz stood in front of the holographic globe, hurriedly tapping on a tablet. The Russians are inside the network, Avon complained. They are downloading the algorithms. If they get the source code for Clifford, they can turn off the internet. Imagine a world without social media, without streaming. Without me. The horror, Tony Stark, Iron God, deadpanned while putting a magazine into his combat MG-MK2. So we go in, kill the bad guys, save the internet. And don't shoot the servers, Avon said. Those racks cost more than your lives. Hulk promised nothing. Hulk, Green Giant, snarled, holding an assault shotgun. He was now wearing full heavy combat gear, the heavy utility vest, which slowed him down but transformed him into a walking tank. The approach location: NOOSE headquarters time. 11 p.m. Stealth is an optional style. They arrived on an Akula stealth chopper, on loan from Avon. They landed on the roof of the vast government structure. Silencers on, Peter, Webhead, murmured as he attached a suppressor to his special carbine. We go in quiet. We leave loud. They accessed the maintenance hatch. They crawled through the ventilation ducts until they reached the server floor. It was a tangle of blinking lights and whirring cooling fans. Targets have been acquired, Tony murmured. 4 mercenaries patrolling the north corridor. Take them. PFF'd. 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 3 guards fell. The 4th person turned around. Hey. The Hulk walked out of the shadows and punched him. Not a super punch, just a standard heavy armor punch. The guard flew into a server rack. Crunch. You dented it. Avon cried into their earpieces. That was the caching server. Deduct it from my pay, Tony told the communications team. Okay. Team. 3 nodes to hack. I'll take Alpha. Peter, take Beta. Hulk, watch the door. The firewall objective: hack the servers. Minigame. Mirrors and lasers. Tony hooked into the first terminal. Hacking is in progress. The screen displayed a beam of light and a series of deflectors. It's a logical puzzle, Tony said, smiling. Refract the beam to hit the data packets. Child's play. He rotated the simulated mirrors. Click. Click. The beam went red and then blue. Connect. Alpha was hacked, Tony said. Peter. How are you doing? I'm working on it, Peter exclaimed in alarm. The mirrors are moving. It's harder than it looks. Incoming. Hulk exclaimed. The elevator doors at the end of the hall flew open. Noose agents spilled out. They found us, Hulk exclaimed, racking his shotgun. Loud noises. Boom boom boom. The assault shotgun decimated the first wave. But they kept coming. Cover me, Peter screamed, eyes fixed on the screen. I need 10 more seconds. Tony established a mobile cover barrier. He positioned his MG over the top. Suppressive fire. The server room transformed into a light show. Sparks flew when bullets struck the metal racks. Got it, Peter exclaimed. Beta hacked. The Juggernaut's threat level, maximum. 1 node left, Tony reloaded. Gamma. It's on the upper catwalk. They went up the steps. A loud mechanical trampling resonated. 2 figures rounded the corner. They were dressed in bomb disposal gear from head to toe and had miniguns. Enemy. Juggernaut. Tanks. The Hulk warned. The Juggernauts spun up their cannons. BRRRRRRRT. The hail of bullets cut through the railing. Tony and Peter dived for shelter. We can't trade fire with them. Tony screamed. Their DPS is too high. Aim for the head. Peter advised, popping out to fire a few shots. The gunshots ricocheted off the hefty helmets. Hulk. Tony commanded. Be the distraction, Hulk roared. He did not shoot. He charged. He dashed through the bullet shower, his thick armor cushioning the impact. He hit the first Juggernaut like a freight train. The Juggernaut staggered. Now, explosives. Tony switched to his RPG. Peter turned to his grenade launcher. FWOOSH, thump. 2 blasts rocked the walkway. The Juggernauts collapsed. Gamma node clear. Tony yelled at the terminal. Hacking. Done. The escape objective. Reach the elevator. All data secured, said the AI voice, Clifford, over the facility speakers. Good work, organic units. Daddy will be pleased. Did the AI just call Avon, Daddy? Peter asked as he ran for the exit. Don't think about it, Tony replied. Move. They fought to get back to the elevator. The lobby was filled with police. We need a vehicle, Tony exclaimed, scanning the parking lot. There. The police riot van. They piled inside the armored vehicle. Hulk took the wheel. Smash gate, Hulk inquired. Smash gate, Tony affirmed. Hulk floored it. The riot van crashed over the roadblock, scattering police vehicles like toys. They sped onto the highway, sirens sounding behind them. The debrief location. The facility. Payout. $812,500. Act 1 completed. They stood in the war room. Avon was ecstatic. "We did it," Avon exclaimed. "The data is safe. The Russians are locked out. And the AI?" Tony inquired, glancing at the enormous screen with the Clifford logo, a purple C, flashing. "I am fully operational," Clifford stated. "My analysis indicates the threat is not over. The source of the attack is a Russian submarine, the Ramius." "A sub?" Avon's eyes brightened. "A nuclear sub? Off the coast?" "Here we go again," Peter murmured. "We need to destroy it," Avon stated. "Act 2, gentlemen. The Bogdan problem. We need to find that sub, board it, and stop the nukes." "We're gonna need a bigger boat," Tony murmured. "Or," Avon smiled, "we use the Strombergs." "The what?" "Submersible cars," said Avon, pressing a button. The floor opened again. Part sports car. Part submarine. Armed with torpedoes. Hulk gazed at the cars. "Do they come in green?" Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.